Check. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to your weekly broadcast of Eyes to See, Vision Beyond the Narrative. I'm glad you're joining me this evening. All 0 of you at this point, but I'm sure many will comment. Whether now, live, or later. And if you're listening to this later, like I've said before, put it on 1.5 speed. I sound smarter. So my plan for today was this is episode number 3 of the Eyes to See policy and political and current events show. Before I started pontificating about all the political nonsense that goes on in our world, I wanted to build a foundation of thought for my viewers. It also helps me get my own thoughts out there and sharpen them. And it's been quite the journey. We had the first 2 papers.
Well, hey,
don't you start. Don't you start. That's Grok. She likes to listen to everything. Well, hey, 0 live viewers, that sucks, but you might as well just keep going. So, in the first 2 episodes, I tried to establish, number 1, that we're all blind. And that, of course, we can all see better, but what does that actually mean? The second one was more, what if everything you believe is wrong? So the third one here today is titled Uncertainty. Now, I started writing it right after the last show, and then I never put enough time into it during the week. So I was hustling to get it done today. And it led me into a few distracted areas. I don't know how many times I redid it, but honestly, I didn't actually finish. But it's still good. Because in the middle of it, I found, believe it or not, a handwritten paper. I'll show you what it looks like. That's not it. That's a different one that we're going to talk about. So I have 2 little papers I wrote. Must have been between 2010 and 2015. Because I can tell by the paper that it was wrote on, was when I was working at a steel mill. And we had long nights where we didn't do shit. So I was able to think, read, and write. And I wrote this one on certainty. And then I wrote one on civil disunion. And that applies also to politics. But the general idea that I'm trying to get across here is humans operate with a certain arrogance of certainty. However, I will argue today the point that humans are not able to be certain of anything except one thing. So let's get into it tonight. Hopefully you're out watering your plants and you're just listening to me. Or you're an insomniac and you can't go to sleep and you're listening to me, because I will put you to sleep. And if you're any of those, thank you for joining. Let me drink a little bit of water here before I get started. And we'll see where it goes, because I need to get this idea dialed. Here we go. Uncertainty, essay number 3. Modern political discourse suffers from a certain pathology. More precisely, it suffers from a pathology of certainty. Pathology in this sense is not meant medically. It is meant diagnostically. It's an attempt to identify a dysfunctional pattern in society that appears normal to those living inside it. To, quote, have certainty, end quote, means to be completely sure, to be confident and free from doubt, to believe something is unquestionably true or guaranteed to happen. Certainty in everyday life feels like stability. It feels like safety. It feels like knowing where you stand and with whom you stand. But what if one is certain? But what if what one is certain of is not true? That is the pathology of certainty. People today are not merely opinionated, they are certain. Certain of motives they have never even examined. Certain of conclusions they did not come to themselves. Certain that the voices they listen to on television, on podcasts, on YouTube, see clearly and speak honestly. And if those voices are ever shown to be wrong, the response is predictable. To their followers, those voices were never really wrong. They were only misunderstood. This is not a strength. It's dependence masquerading as conviction. In the first two essays of Eyes to See, I argued that the modern world functions as a system of deception, one in which those with power manipulate truth for illegitimate gain, and that the most destabilizing question a person can ask in politics is, what if I'm wrong about everything? That question threatens something deeper than an opinion. It threatens one's identity. Certainty, when borrowed from others rather than earned through careful thought and experience, functions as a psychological armor. It protects a person from ambiguity, from moral effort, and from the discomfort of self-examination. It allows someone to outsource judgment to a trusted authority and still experience themselves as informed, serious, and righteous. But here's the problem that most political thinking never slows down long enough to confront. Human beings are not built for absolute certainty. We are finite creatures operating inside the bounds of time and space. We see fragments, not whole. We perceive moments, not ages. I can understand what is in front of me right now, but I cannot understand what is in front of someone else on the other side of the world yesterday. I can understand today, but how can I understand what will be in 10 years? I am limited by my perspective, by information, by time and space. Absolute certainty would require absolute perception, a knowledge that is not bound by time, place, limitation, or ignorance. In other words, it would require omniscience. Omniscient means possessing universal, infinite, or complete knowledge of all things. Does that sound like anyone you know? Well, it isn't you, and it's not me. Human beings are not omniscient, not even close. That fact alone should introduce humility into every one of your political claims. But in reality, we do the opposite. We treat partial knowledge as a full and final truth. We treat modest probability as certain proof. We assume that because a story told to us by some talking head sounds believable or coherent, it must be true. This is where modern political discourse begins to drift into absurdity. People speak with a total confidence about systems they know nothing about. They do not control, incentives they do not fully understand, and futures they will never see. They speak with a moral certainty about outcomes that span generations, while refusing to acknowledge the most obvious constraint of all. They do not and cannot see everything. Earlier civilizations understood this limitation better than we do. Historically, omniscience and omnipotence were not human traits, they were divine ones. Words like omniscient and omnipotent were not political aspirations. They were theological descriptions, attempts to name something beyond human understanding. Ooh, this is where I might have gone off the rails here. Stay with me. I started to interject this and then I got distracted. Okay. What is true is only that which is. Think of it. Truth. Period. Truth is, period. Truth is that which is. It doesn't depend on you, perspective, relativity, or arguments. Truth is all that is, and that which is. As a matter of fact, when Moses was talking to God after the burning bush, or during the burning bush, and he said, "Whom shall I tell them sent me?" God said, "I am." The name of God, I am that I am. Truth is. In that framework, truth is not what is persuasive, comforting, or popular. Truth is simply that which is. What is not, what contradicts reality, is deception, regardless of how widely it's accepted or passionately defended. This matters politically because it exposes what is actually happening beneath modern certainty. Most people today do not experience themselves as limited. They believe their limitations have been solved by institutions, experts, credentials, diplomas, data, or consensus. They confuse access to information with understanding or wisdom. They confuse repetition with truth. They are certain because someone else is certain for them. But borrowed certainty is fragile. It holds only as long as the authority supplying it remains intact. When narratives conflict, when trusted voices fail, or when reality intrudes, that certainty collapses. And when it collapses, people rarely become humble. They become defensive. Doubt feels like betrayal. Questions feel like attacks. Identity tightens. What was once confidence hardens into rigidity. Was that page 3? Okay, I literally need page numbers on here. This is why false certainty does not heal political division, it intensifies it. False certainty. If I am absolutely certain, disagreement cannot be an honest mistake. It must be malice. If my framework is complete, opposition cannot be sincere. It has to be corrupt. Once disagreement is moralized in this way, conversation becomes impossible. Persuasion gives way only to power. Reasoning gives way only to enforcement. This is not how corruption is exposed, it's how corruption survives. Corruption thrives wherever certainty is highest and self-examination is lowest. Say that again. Corruption thrives where certainty, a false certainty, because we cannot be certain, is highest and self-examination is lowest. Systems decay when no one inside them believes they could be wrong. History shows this over and over again. The greatest political harms were not carried out by people who thought they were evil. They were carried out by people who are certain they were right. This brings us to a distinction that modern political discourse rarely makes. The distinction between certainty and faith. Faith is not certainty about everything. Faith is a trust directed towards something beyond oneself, also known as a certainty of that which is unseen. Paired with the honest admission of one's own limits, faith does not claim total understanding, it acknowledges a dependence. When faith is described as the certainty of things unseen, it is not describing blind confidence, it's describing orientation, acting toward what one believes to be true while admitting that one does not see the whole picture. That posture is fundamentally different from ideological certainty. Ideology claims complete clarity without complete vision. Faith accepts partial understanding without pretending to be absolute. This is why genuine faith places limits on human authority rather than inflating it. It reminds rulers, experts, and institutions that they are not gods, and they never will be. Modern political systems have quietly reversed this structure. God is removed, humility is weakness, human institutions assume divine characteristics. They claim moral certainty, historical inevitability, and unquestionable authority. Don't question me. Those who resist are labeled ignorant, dangerous, fringe, radical, or immoral. This is not progress. This is idolatry with modern vocabulary. The purpose of eyes to see is not to create more certainty. It's to dismantle a false certainty. The kind that insulates corruption, hardens identity, and prevents people from asking foundational questions about power, truth, and responsibility. A healthy political culture does not require uniform agreement. Let me say that again. A healthy political culture does not require uniform agreement. It requires moral seriousness. It requires the willingness to say, I might be wrong, without collapsing into relativism or cynicism. Truth does not flatter us. It does not align with tribes. It does not care how invested we are in being right. Truth simply is. And because human beings are not absolute, approaching truth will always require humility, restraint, and tolerance for discomfort. Certainty offers safety. Truth demands courage. Any political vision built on certainty will eventually collapse under the weight of its own arrogance. A vision oriented toward truth, approached patiently, imperfectly, and honestly, might actually endure. What'd you think? So now we have a directive in this show. The first understanding is you might be wrong about everything. The second thing is you can never be 100% certain of anything. And that might leave us unmoored, as they say, floating in the drift in the ocean, adrift in the ocean. But it does not. Actually, did I print that out? So I actually found this, and then I was like, oh man, I remember this. And I dictated it to the computer and printed it out. Actually, I don't know if I printed it out, but I'm trying to find it. I kind of want to read it because it's not as long and it's a little less, I don't want to say academic, but those are those three. That's not it. That's not it. Oh, here it is. No, that's not it either, is it? This is it, but maybe I'll just read it off the thing. I rewrote it. Okay. Historically, omniscience, that's the different. Those are resist. Okay, we did that one. Where is it? No. My goodness, I forgot what I called it. It's SA3 eyes. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Give me 1 second. Open recent. It's got to be, uncertainty original. There it is. This is the original. Actually, this is the original, the handwritten version. And then I printed it, and then I redid it. And I want to read the redid version. But they're both on the same paper, so I need to figure out... Oh, there it is. I don't know. What can men be... Okay, let's give it a shot. So this is just kind of an addendum to the original essay. Actually, let me double check. We don't have any comments. We do have comments. Mr. Penny Pebble Ripplers. I remember that. 17, 13, 10, and 3 minutes ago. Let's see. Here we go. Eyes and ears. Oh, good, good. My surroundings are awfully smelly as well. We just finished trimming the small room. And when I say me, we, I mean my esteemed helper. Because I am a worthless trimmer now. All right. I may wake up one day and not be able to fly a kite. That would be a great or a horrible day, though. What would the difference between it being great or horrible be? If you wake up, that means you're not dead. If you can't fly the kite, that means it's either you don't have a kite, you're disabled, or there's no wind. That could be a great day, because I hate days with wind, unless you want to fly the kite. Gotcha. I should have got my mind straight. Much like a drum circle. I remember drum circles. Back in my hippie days. I like kite days. Believe it or not, I have a stunt kite. And I've had it since God knows how long, maybe 20 years. And anytime, every so often, I'll break it out and we'll go to the park and I will just torch the spinner one. And I didn't always, beyond that kite, I never got into them more. But I can see the appeal. I love flying drones. I love flying kites. And I do love drum circles. So thank you for the comments. Now, I am going to read this. Actually, maybe I should read the first one and then the second one. I mean, the first one is literally word for word what I wrote here, and then I went back and rewrote it. So I guess I'll read the second one, which is not this. This is the first one. I just haven't printed the second one. Where does it start? Okay, so this was titled Uncertainty. If you don't know, there's a philosopher named Ludwig Wittgenstein, not German, Austrian, of Ashkenazi Jewish descent. However, converting in the generation or two previous to him to Protestantism and having, like all philosophers ever, a tormented life to which he struggled with many things. It's because these motherfuckers think too much, but they don't actually get to any point. That's why I could never handle college, because it's like, I get so distracted by reading people that are like, all my brain is telling me is you're fucking wrong, dude. You can't know this, what you don't know. Oh, I caught that. I actually got into boomerangs a minute ago. Last year, maybe. Boomerangs. You know what I'm going to do this year? So my plan is every year I go elk hunting. And it's more of a mountain vacation in November where we are able to watch football and basketball on our phones in the tent. Believe it or not. At 10,000 feet. Probably... would it be 40 miles, 50 miles from the nearest town? Or the nearest city. And I love it up there. And it's a perfect place for boomerangs. So I was either going to go up there also this summer, take the family, hang out, plink some 22s, or we'll go in November with the hunting. But either time, I'm going to get some boomerangs and take them with. Yes. Drones, kites, boomerangs. Blow darts. We do blow darts too. Throwing axes, throwing knives. We had our inaugural throwing knife, I think it was the axe, throwing axe competition happened last year. And I, yours truly, was the winner between my son and my hunting friend. What happened to my paper? There it is. Why can't I find the... Shouldn't it say there's a line in the middle? Oh, that's not even it. That's why. I'm like, that's not it. It's uncertainty original. There it is. Gotcha. Here we go. Of what can a man be certain? The deepest thinkers in human history have wrestled with that question. And so have those of us who would not dare to call ourselves deep thinkers. You know what? I like my first version better. I'm going to read the first version. Risking it in its original form. Ready? Of what can man be certain? The deepest thinkers of human history have battled this question, as well as those of us who aren't deep thinkers. An interesting aspect of certainty I found in my own thinking is that doubting one's certainty comes only after a person feels quite certain. Having just begun my journey into the world of thinking, I had a naive idea that doubting and questioning all things was the starting point in the pursuit of certainty, and that truth would eventually emerge. I'm sure some very learned scholars would be quick to remind me that many schools of thought have been cultivated in the fertile farmlands of skepticism. I would agree then, and add that that skepticism was always in response to someone else's certainty. The contemporary fundamentalist is a stereotypical picture of a false certainty. We can all point the finger at the fundamentalists because even they feel they're not one, and that there are plenty of crazies out there that are far more fundamentalist than me. The problem is that in one sense, we are all fundamentalists. I would propose that any person positing a truth claim is a fundamentalist. Even the stereotypical relativist who says truth claims are relative to the culture, situation, individuals, etc., makes himself plenty of truth claims, and only one of which is the truth claim that there is no absolute truth. Get the irony? Let's propose a new starting point. Let's start by examining our ability to make absolute claims. I'm a thinking person, therefore I should be certain of my existence. I think, therefore I am. Oops, that one's been tried already, and in my opinion, been found wanting. For those certain that thinking necessitates existence, try visiting a mental hospital or Colfax in Denver. If we can accept the fragility of the human mind, we can then begin to understand our own finitude. And I didn't even realize I knew that word back then. That's crazy. Finitude. And being the finite creatures that we are, it would seem almost foreign for us to be pursuing absolute claims. It's as if the absolute was reserved for the infinite. Each and every time I claim certainty, I put myself in a position of absolute authority. Authority. Eerily similar to Genesis 3:5, wanting to be like God is the root of human wrongness, not pride. Pride keeps a person from accepting his or her finitude, which then allows a person to make absolute claims. Well, of what then can we be certain? Oh, this part I definitely needed to rewrite. Let's see because I didn't quite have it sussed out on the paper. This is about Wittgenstein and Popper and their argument, and I did not write it very well, but I'll go through it. Well, of what then can we be certain? A dialogue between 20th century philosophical giant Wittgenstein and Karl Popper discussed the certainty of saying, here is a hand, that they're in the hands. Wittgenstein counter, I propose instead, for the sake of my own argument, the statement, here is a table. And they got mad at each other, and Karl Popper wanted to poke him with the poker, a fire. I don't honestly remember the story. Whatever. In judging the certainty of this statement, I would at best define it as limited certainty, tableness, time, and space. Okay, that entire paragraph can be erased. To be proved certain, a thing must be proved certain in its entirety. And that's the idea about the hand. Do you know this hand in front of you is a hand? Or can you see it for the atoms and molecules and compounds that it's made of? And is it the same hand now as it was 4 seconds ago? Don't give me this bullshit, Wittgenstein, about I am certain of here is a hand or here is a table. Because within the bounds of time and space, you can be certain of nothing. But there's a hope here. I promise. We're going to get to the hope. So, to be proved certain, a thing must be proved certain in its entirety. A thing in its entirety exists beyond human understanding. We don't understand everything about this hand. Human understanding is futile, finite, and bound by many aspects of reality, not the least of which is time and space. A thing in its entirety exists. Limited certainty is a thing of limited certainty. Whoops. Yeah, maybe I should have read the cleaned up version. Absolute certainty can only exist from the absolute or of the absolute. From the absolute or of the absolute. Absolute certainty, let me say that again. So for a human to have absolute certainty, I'm arguing it's not possible because we ourselves are not absolute. In order to have an absolute certainty, one must be absolute. The only people that are absolute are gods or God. So the absolute certainty can only exist from that being. Or, here's a big or, of that being. So the finite person can be absolutely certain of the absolute. That, ladies and gentlemen, is faith. Limited certainty holds many truths, but they are limited. The full integration of certainty culminates in the infinite. God is infinite. God is. Absolute certainty can only be found in the proposition God is. From this primary certainty, many certainties follow, but they are all limited and connected to this first principle. This argument holds many implications that are appealing to both the relativists and the fundamentalists. This argument is not an argument for the existence of God. This argument shows how, by definition, true faith is absolute certainty in only one proposition: that God is. The argument shows only that human certainty is limited. If a human can have full certainty, then it can only be in the one thing of which I can be certain: that God is. Are there other truths that exist? Absolutely. I'm almost certain they do. Get it? But to be the proclaimer or judge of them is to be like God, and that is dangerous ground. Does this then become a relativist manifesto? By no means. I hope this will lead to the formation of an execution order of the fundamentalistic and relativistic ideologies. A new middle ground can then be cultivated by those relinquishing themselves from God's throne, a people redeemed who form and hold convictions and continuously season them with doubt. Farmers of truth that see themselves as the workers in the field and not God. Workers who pull the weeds of deception and fend off the varmints of lies. See how it all ties in together? I appreciate, actually, I don't even know anybody is watching. It's not like I'm in a classroom where I can look out over the audience and see people. The only thing I see is my camera lens. But I appreciate the idea that people are out there listening. And I wouldn't mind hearing some feedback. But more than anything, this is my opportunity to get this shit out on paper. Get it out on the paper. I don't remember when this... The frustration I have with thinking and philosophy is that I've always been a thinker. But then I went to school and I was like, oh, so to do philosophy, you have to read all these knuckleheads? And I wasn't a good reader and just honestly could not stand other people's thinking. I only wanted to do my own. And I did realize that that was ignorant. Because you need to understand people to refute them. You need to understand people to... The problem is that you go in the pig slop in the mud and try and figure these people out, and you come out dirty, in my opinion. But this was a good opportunity for me to sort this thing that I've had in the back of my head, uncertainty. I have every intention of writing some type of book. And that's what kind of pursued this entire show. And my other one on faith and doubt. Coming to you February 28th, more or less, unless the Nuggets are playing on the 28th. We will have our second episode of the monthly philosophical discussion of On Faith and Doubt. Oh, that's only like in a week. Shit. That means I'm going to have to do 2 of these. One of these and one of those. Did I read the Moses quote? I remember pulling it up. Then Moses said to God, if I come to the people of Israel and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? God said to Moses, I am that I am. And then he said, say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you. God also said to Moses, say this to the people of Israel. The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and thus I am to be remembered throughout all generations. Go and gather the elders of Israel together and say to them, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob has appeared to me, saying, I have observed you, and what has been done to you in Egypt, and I promise that I will bring you out of the affliction of Egypt, to the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, a land flowing with milk and honey. Okay, now we're... Speaking of that land, there seemed to be a battle over it right now. Interesting how that never goes away. No, why was I bringing that up? No, I was trying to make the point that this idea of uncertainty, on faith, on the thing that got me about uncertainty. So Wittgenstein wrote a book on uncertainty, but it was while he was dying, and it was just a bunch of bullshit notes of the same shit over and over again, from what I can tell. But he did write his first little book on in the trenches of World War I believe. And I forget the name of it. It's like, but it was the idea. Like, he literally starts 1.0 and makes a statement, and he goes 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.31, 1.32. It's some kind of let's see, Wittgenstein books. I don't even know if it's a book. Uncertainty. Tractatus. That's what it is. Tractatus. Did I ever say it right? 1921. Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus. Is Ludwig Wittgenstein's only book published in his lifetime. What? I didn't know that. A highly influential work exploring the relationship between language, logic, and reality, famously stating, "What we cannot talk about, we must pass over in silence." Fuck out of here. Come on. Did you not just hear what I wrote? Come on. These motherfuckers. Written in short, numbered propositions. Like I said, 1.1, 1.2. It attempts to define the limits of thought and science, proposing that propositions are all pictures of reality, and that philosophy's role is to clarify language. Language is the code of understanding. Communication. The Greeks would call it the logos, the word. Without language, what are we beyond an animal? And what language do the animals have? But we are given language. And some would say, in the beginning was the Logos, and the Logos was God, and the Logos was with God. Actually, I know that. I don't intend this to be any sort of sermon or church service, but in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him. Oh, anytime it says the word, that's Greek logos. In the beginning was the Logos, and the Logos was with God, and the Logos was God. He was in the beginning. So the language, there's no word for it, is there? That language, which is, all things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Maybe that's what I should do. I'll do a whole nother channel of just me reading the Bible, because I'd enjoy it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness, to bear witness about the light, but he himself was not the light. I added that. I thought, no, here it is. That all might believe through him. He was not the light, but came to bear witness about the light. The true light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to his own people, and they did not receive him. But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, nor of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. And we have seen his glory as of the only Son, from the Father, full of grace and truth. John bore witness about him and cried out, "This was he of whom I said, he who comes after me comes before me, because he was before me." For from his fullness we have all received grace upon grace. For the law was given through Moses, and grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God. God, the only Son, who is at the Father's side, he has made him known. That's John chapter 1. First half, more or less. There's a political problem today in the United States, one that has driven a divide in my house. And I think it's funny. and I love it. I don't mind divides, and I don't mind arguments, and I don't mind differing beliefs, and I don't mind questioning things. However, while my wife and I agree on 99% of all things, including politics, there is a new division in politics. And it's not between the radical leftist progressivism where the Overton window has shifted so far to the left that what used to be a liberal Democrat of the 90s would now be considered a far-right extremist. We've talked about that. No, the left at this point is irrelevant except for their little, what do you call it? Civil disobedience and disorder and riots and protests, which as this weather gets better, I assume are going to intensify because they do like to riot. However, the divide is on the right. It's a schism in the MAGA movement, and it has to do with Charlie Kirk and what exactly happened to Charlie Kirk. Now, when I saw it, I was deeply disturbed because I've seen Charlie. I watched Charlie as he was a kid. I watched him come up. And nobody in American politics had ever become so powerful. Yet it wasn't known, but under the surface. And it was absolutely the case that the structure of the 2024 election, Charlie was definitely part of the 2016, but that was when he was beginning. When Trump came on to the MAGA doctrine and bitch slapped Hillary, basically. But then, of course, in 2020, Trump was unsuccessful, as they say, in a curious election. But beyond Trump is the MAGA doctrine. Make America great again. It's so funny how it irritates so many people. Yet, I think to myself, 15 generations of my blood and my name are born or buried in the soil. And I take a little pride in the fucking country. From Pennsylvania to Arkansas to New Mexico to Colorado. And stops in between, Texas, Oklahoma. My family built some of this country. We did our part, 15 generations. My good friend that hunts with me is one generation into this country. First generation under his name born on this soil. I guess it would be second to be born or buried if his previous generation, his father, would be buried. But that's not the point. The point is, from 15 generations to one generation, we have a similar outlook on the country. We want this country that built on its own principles to remain, not to change, not to decrepit, not to fall apart, not to turn into something else. No. It's easy to join up on a team. Let's say, for instance, you didn't know anything about basketball. But one day you were like, I like basketball. Look at these games. They're so much fun. And then you say, I should choose a team. I'm going to join up with this team, the Denver Nuggets. Why? Because they're the best, in my humble opinion. But you have a reason. You're like, they have the best player in the world. He plays for the right reasons. The style they play is good. They just beat Portland 157-103 last night. Beautiful. So when you jump on that team, you become, that becomes your identity. Shit, where was I going with the identity? Oh no, don't let me break my brain. Yeah, I completely forgot where I was. Let's see. Identity can either be politics or we were talking politics, weren't we? The left or the right. Charlie, the division. Maybe that's what it was. In terms of politics, in 2016, when Trump won, I was removed from politics. Previous to that, I had never voted for a Democrat or a Republican for president of the United States in my. The first time I could vote would have been in 76 plus 20 is 94. Yeah, I think 94 was the midterms of Bill Clinton. And then in 96, in 2000, 2004, 2008, I was voting third party. At first, it was Ross Perot, if I remember correctly. And then it was Ron Paul. And then it was Gary Johnson, Libertarians. Why? Because I could never buy into either side. It just all seemed like a bunch of bullshit. However, that night that the election happened with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton was a night I'll remember forever, because I literally did not pay any attention to anything in politics up until that point. I'm going to choose to vote for my Gary Johnson, and my vote goes in the trash, and there you go. But apparently something had been going on under the surface, a little uprising in the blood of the Americans, saying, you know what? This American country has a lot of potential, and it has a certain ethos about it, a certain history, a certain freedom that the rest of the world doesn't have. Because it's young, it's not become fully corrupted, although that's up for debate at this point. And we would like, me, 15 generations, my friend, 1 generation, all buying into the same MO, modus operandi, that we want to make this country as good as possible and enjoy the fruits of our labor living in a peaceful and prosperous country. Now, a lot of powerful people decided to destroy our country over the last 50 years. Let's see, 26 minus 50. What's that? 76? Yeah, maybe in the 70s is when it started. That was Jimmy Carter, wasn't it? I honestly don't know a whole lot about that. But I do know that corporations decided, and purposefully so, to remove all manufacturing from the United States and instead dump it into China. So what happened? Well, in 1980, the town I live in that had one of the biggest steel mills in the country that employed 30,000 people, I think, at one point, or was it 10,000? The Pittsburgh of the West, it collapsed because Chinese steel could come in on pennies on the dollar because it's subsidized, and China wanted to undercut the U.S. It wasn't at their behest. It wasn't China's. It was the powerful business leaders and politicians of the United States that said, if we do this, we can make more money. We can have more power. It's like, it takes us $10 to make these shoes in the U.S., and we sell them for $20. Or let's say it takes $50 to make these shoes in the U.S., and we sell them for $100. But if we move manufacturing to China, we can get them made for $5 and still sell them for $100. or 90. And there's so much more. But doesn't it cost so much money to transfer and to ship everything across the oceans? Pennies on the dollar. Pennies on the dollar. Just send it all. So now China makes 100% of everything, including our medicines, medical supplies. And we learned that in COVID. And to me, the MAGA doctrine was, no, it's as simple as this. Make America great again. When was it ever great? It's always been racist. And shut the fuck up. Seriously. Shut the fuck up. If it wasn't great at any point, then why does every motherfucker on the planet want to come here? Was there racist time in the U.S.? Yeah, absolutely. There's still racism. Go to fucking jail. Uh-oh, don't start to get me fired up. But every country on this fucking planet is 100 times more racist than the United States. You don't believe it? Go to Norway and tell me that this picture of socialism utopia is non-racist. I beg to differ. They are being infiltrated to the point of extinction of foreigners from different nations. And we are in real time watching the collapse of Europe. That same collapse was intended for the United States, and Trump was the one that said, no, we're not fucking doing it. We're locking down the borders. And it's not a racism thing. It's whoever's here is here. We're going to get to work. Whoever came illegally is getting kicked the fuck out. Starting with the worst and going backwards until we're done. That seems simple. And 80% of the current population, lefties included, agrees with that perspective on immigration. But you got your little 10, 20% of bleeding heart, overeducated, white, urban, liberal women that are out there getting killed protesting ICE because they would rather, because they think it's racist. It's obviously fucking racist. Was it racist when the immigrant killed the, I mean, it goes back and forth. We're not going to solve that problem today. And I'm just rambling, but my point was the MAGA doctrine seemed to surface in 2016. And I saw that night, you might think, oh, it's Trump and his speech and these MAGA and the red hats and all these different things that I jumped onto as a team. No. I was an independent. I was a Republicans are retarded. Democrats are retarded. They're wrong about everything, in my opinion. Libertarians want to live and let live. And in a country founded on freedom, we should probably do that. That was my simple politics. Never voted for a Republican or Democrat, and I didn't vote for Republican that election. That was Trump. I voted for Gary Johnson. But what I saw, the one thing that I used to fucking hate was TV. Commercials, bullshit TV shows. Coming up next on Survivor. Previously on Survivor. Don't get me wrong, I watched a few Survivors, and they're fun, but bread and circus, give me a break. But what I saw, nothing pisses me off more than the media, the news. I couldn't fucking stand the news. Worse than commercials, even. It just seemed all so, like, manufactured and fake, and like you're literally trying to get us to care about shit that we don't need to care about. That's my perspective on the media. And so all these mediaites, talking heads, Fox included, lost their ever fucking loving minds when Trump started winning that night. And I remember thinking, I haven't paid attention to any politics to this point. I'm in here watering my cannabis plants, loving life and listening to music. And I thought, hey, isn't tonight the election? I should turn the TV on, of which I have only an antenna. I had a projector that had literally a TV antenna. So I could get 3 channels or 4 channels, whatever it is. And I turned that thing on and I watched NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, and maybe PBS even. And what I saw made me happier than I think I had ever been in my life. Wait, let's think. What year is this? This is 2016. Yeah, times were good then, but I had also had 2 kids. So maybe the birth of those kids was a little bit better. Although I was pretty freaked out, I remember on that. Anyway, I was like, this is the coolest fucking thing I've ever seen. These media-ites and these overeducated midwits that think they know everything about everything are getting shocked. They're like, Trump's winning. Trump won Ohio. Trump won Florida. Hillary was 99% to win. Like, what's going on? And that did it for me. Anything that pisses those motherfuckers off is okay with me. And I was like, who is this Donald Trump guy? I remember literally posting on Twitter probably before the election that Donald Trump is everything that's wrong with American business and Hillary Clinton is everything that's wrong with American politics. Vote for Gary Johnson. And then when Trump bitch slapped Hillary, literally, you'd be in jail. I thought it was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. And from that moment forth, I was on the MAGA train. Now, all trains must be maintained. They must have a track. They must be going in a direction. And sometimes trains derail. I tell you no lies. I have family that worked in the railroads. Sometimes trains derail and disasters happen. And then there's people that go pick them all up and get them going again. And that's kind of where the MAGA doctrine is now. There's a schism between Turning Point USA and Candace Owens. And I think it's fascinating. I don't have enough information to make any judgments, but I think it's a beautiful example of when you think you know everything and you get to a point where like, but what if I'm wrong? I've always been the kind of person that asks, yeah, but what if that's not true? Yeah, but what if what you think isn't true? Yeah, but that might not be true. And the reason I did that, was because I thought people were stupid. Not going to lie. I think everyone's intelligent, but I definitely feel like I'm intelligent. Intelligent means you have the ability to process information and understand things quickly. And I thought people were pretty dumb. Maybe they were lazy. Maybe they were just not educated. Maybe they're not whatever. But I could tell by the decisions that people made and the words that came out of their mouth that people were usually wrong. Therefore, I'm not trusting anything anyone says, especially these self-proclaimed talking heads. And I love to call them overeducated midwits because that's what they are. Overeducated midwits. I should check and see if there's any comments. Oh, I can't stay up tonight too late. I have to go to bed. The Nuggets are playing at 1:30 tomorrow. Mr. Penny Pebbler. I don't know why I say Pebbler. Penny Pebble Rippler. Okay, where did I leave off? You know what? Sorry, I jumped off the page. So, sounds like a good time. Oh yeah, up in the mountains. Gotcha. Yeah, drawing on this dark phantom bud at the enjoy. Dark Phantom. War tick, you live with being induced into the fold. See, if I paid attention to this while I was saying it, it would make more sense. That could be some thick wisdom too. When people write these things, we have to put ourselves in the time and place. Oh, yeah, for sure. See, I could be having a decent conversation with you guys, and I was off in my own little world. Many people don't. Mr. Savelli, the martial art expert himself, identity and tribalism? Yes, we have addressed that. Squeaky sneaker. And Ireland is a big T-Rex on our medicine drawbacks. This reminds me of Beck, the song Beck, I'm a Loser Baby. If you read the lyrics, they literally don't make any sense. And I'm not saying you don't make sense, but it sounds like the same thing. Ireland is a big T-Rex on our medicine drawbacks. But I know that there is meaning there, and that's the same as Beck. I have literally no meaning in these words, and the meaning supersedes the words. Because I think that's in reference to what I was talking about, making stuff in our own country. Okay, I am now caught up on the comments. Good. And we're at 1 hour, 6 minutes, and what was I talking about? We were sorting out the MAGA doctrine? No, I think we got past that. Oh, the Charlie Kirk thing. Yeah, so Charlie Kirk was involved in the 2016, but from his Turning Point USA was like getting young people to register to vote and making it semi-cool to be Republican. It was absolutely uncool to be Republican in the mid-90s when I was around. As a young person, you had to be a bleeding heart liberal. There was just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The cool people, the ones that get tattoos, they're liberal. But then that changed. I think it changed with Trump. You know, you had a new generation of war-torn Gen Xers that weren't buying into the shit. Like my brother, for instance, been in the military for a gazillion years. Always was libertarian. And I think the military members were the most to vote libertarian because they were tired of fighting shit that didn't matter. But then Trump was like, hey, how about we stop fucking fighting wars that we don't need to be in? How about we shut the fucking border down until we get our own house in order? How about we bring the manufacturing back to the U.S. so that we're not dependent on China and we make our own shit again? I was all on board of that. And to watch those talking heads and the mediaites lose their minds and cry and pee in their diapers, that was the greatest thing in the world. 2020 was weird because of COVID. Fuck COVID. For those of you that don't know, I never bought into that bullshit for 1 second. To me, it was a manufactured, what do they call it, a plandemic. But understand this, I don't say anything with 100% certainty as we go back to our paper. I could certainly be wrong. And what if I am wrong? But what we can have is a relative, partial, highly probabilistic certainty. And if you actually put a number on it, who's certain of anything beyond 50%? In terms of why COVID, what COVID, when COVID, how COVID. To me, looking back, it just seemed incredibly obvious that Trump opened up a wound in the globalist society that festered down through the capillaries of the liberal left and festered into a metastasizing cancerous disease called Trump derangement syndrome. And anything that came out of Trump if you're on one side, it's the devil. If you're on the other side, it's the best. And that was fascinating, in my opinion. That it's like an autoimmune disease, you know? Do you know what an autoimmune disease is? It's when your own immune system, built and designed to fend off the pathogens and the infectious things into your body, viruses and whatnot. Soon when that goes haywire and starts attacking your own body. That was the Trump derangement syndrome response to me, an autoimmune disease. But I think a lot of people that were like, I'm done with the left, because there was a nice chunk of people that, what did they call it? The walk away movement, the Blexit movement, that they turned their back on the left. They're like, all right, you guys have gone batshit crazy. Like, you're literally arguing 100% of everything that is anti-Trump. That's basically all your platform is. Trump thinks the family's important. We think fuck the family. We want transgenders. I mean, it's just coming from an independent third party kind of guy. It just blows my freaking mind what we've seen over the past 10 years in politics. It blows my mind. And I've loved a lot of it. I get a kick out of it. I wasn't terribly happy in 2020 because for some reason, after Dead Man Walking was elected, the country went batshit crazy. The economy went to fucking hell. And $5 trillion was dumped into the economy to be siphoned to the powerful people inside and outside the country. They're like, I know. Here's what we'll do. We'll be here for 4 years. This guy doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. We're just going to undermine him, pump $5 trillion into the economy, and we can siphon out $4.5 trillion and send it to you, all of our friends. In the meantime, you're like, why is gold $5,000 an ounce right now? Oh, because they did that. Duh. That's why. It's not that. This is $30. $30 when I bought it. Now it's $150? Where is it in focus? Right there. Why? It's not because all of a sudden we need more silver and silver is valuable. No. It's because the dollar is, and that started in 2020. And for that, I am resentful. The destruction of the economy was, the price of everything doubled. Cannabis industry collapsed. My plans for successful business got thwarted by that dumb motherfucker. And I was pretty pissed. So, what any reasonable person would do would be fight against it. And fight I did. I pissed off a lot of fucking people in the run up to the 2024 election. And let me tell you this. This could be an indicator of reality. My son and I, who loved the MAGA movement, and it's important that I teach my children not what to believe, but how to think so that they can see and make their own beliefs. But they buy right into it. That's why they're children. That's why we have families. That's why we have genetics, because the people that of our blood usually think like us. Not that hard to figure out. But I would drive around with flags in my truck. Things like, fuck Kamala. Oh, wait. I was like, did she win the president? No. It's like, what happened? I thought Joe Biden, and then, oh yeah, but Kamala ran because Joe Biden was imbecile, and the only way they could keep their money is if they ran the vice president and not somebody else, and they lost their shit. The Democrats thought they had elections sewn up for 32 years, starting with Barack Obama. Not going to lie. And they had every intention and a plan to destabilize, destroy the United States, open it up to immigration and globalization. That was the New World Order plan. It's not that fucking obvious, hard to see. It's pretty fucking obvious, and it's admitted. So the problem is Obama. It was supposed to be Obama, Biden. It was supposed to be Biden. That would be the logical next step, right? But Barack and Joe didn't like each other. And actually, if the people had anything to do with it, on the left, it would have been Bernie Sanders. Because the lefties that were done with the system wanted Bernie Sanders. And the Democratic Party literally manipulated the election so that Hillary would beat Bernie. Allegedly. And then I assume it was just going to be, hey, we got 8 years of Hillary. They just fucked. The fatal mistake was not running Joe Biden. Because the one thing that Hillary did was polarize people. Are there a lot of people that are like, bitch, please, we're not going to have a woman run the country? Sure. Myself included. Chauvinist? Give me a badge. I don't give a shit. I just don't think that Hillary, in terms of leadership, I don't know. We can get into chauvinistic talks later on. I think that women are too good, too valuable, too treasure-like in humanity and society to succumb to the dirtiness of being a CEO or a politician or the like. But I'm probably in the minority there. It's like, I don't want my daughter going out and pumping outhouses, okay? I don't want her climbing cell towers, okay? I don't want her asphalting roads, okay? But I think that that's because, there's jobs for men. And there's jobs for women. It's not a hard and fast line. I'm just saying, naturally. I'm a big fan of nature and naturally. Naturally, women are great caregivers. My wife works in a hospital, is a wonderful caregiver. I could never do that. I don't care if you paid me $17 million. I'm not seeing anybody take their fucking clothes off and shit all over themselves. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. So in that sense, I think, we all have our roles. And if we violate those roles, it might be, yay, we got a feedback. Not going to lie, kind of feel the same. And my sister is a soldier, a literal army soldier. And I think that there is a place for army soldiers. She was air traffic control, so she's not an infantry. But I agree. I 100% agree. It's like I wouldn't want my daughter being a cop. I wouldn't want my daughter being a firefighter. Firefighter is, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, not a hot take. I'm all on board with what you're saying there. I can always go back in my mind to what a society would be like if you only had 150 people in a small village and no villages nearby. That's where I revert to when I think, what if we started from scratch? What if we had no infrastructure, no technology, no nothing, and there was only 150 of us? So that's enough people to know everyone, to breed. You can build you're not all going to be inbred, hopefully, to raise generations of children. So you would have maybe one little school What are we going to do for school? Well, in that society, you wouldn't have school. You would, everyone would teach. The men would go kill the fucking animals. The women would harvest the berries and wash the clothes and make the clothes and do whatever they did. And it's been that way for thousands of years. And then all of a sudden I'm saying, well, what if we had a warring tribe come and attack us? Every man is going to defend, is going to give their life first. They're going to be the fighters. You might have a whippersnapper little girl that's like my daughter that wanted to be gangster and grab a spear and throw it at some guy. And maybe in Hollywood that would make a good story. But in my opinion, if I heard the warring tribe was coming, I say, get the women and children out of the camp, send them on their way. We may or may not survive, but you will go without us, and we will kill or be killed. How does that not make sense? No, I think that the guys should stay back and that they should work on basket weaving. And then you should make the girls throw spears at the other people. Because they can throw spears. They can throw spears just like any guy. They can use the bows and arrows. They're just as good at bow and arrows. I guarantee it. I'm just going to stay back and basket weave. Because I don't want to fight. Because that scares me. Yeah, it just seems unnatural, doesn't it? What does seem natural? Put the women and children to bed and go looking for some fucking dinner. Chauvinism, a chauvinist would say. You want to go out on a limb here? My freaking headphones are doing that shit again. Tell me if the sound is going in and out. Comment from Penny Pebble. Ripplers, the chick in New Zealand is holding things down there. Are they run by a prime minister woman? Let's check it out. New. I have friends. I have Kiwi friends. Premier, President woman. Jacinda Ardern was the most prominent female leader of New Zealand, serving in the 40th Prime Minister to 2023. She's no longer in office. The world's youngest female head of government at age 37? Did they do a good job of leading through the crisis of COVID? Because Australia did not do a good job. Known for her kindness and approach to politics, she led the country through the Christchurch mosque shootings and the COVID-19 pandemic. The Prime Minister. Yeah, I mean, that's the picture perfect empathy. Pathological empathy. Bleeding heart, affluent, overeducated, female urban liberals. The reason I keep saying that is it's the acronym AWFUL. Affluent, female, affluent, white, female. Do I even know how to spell awful? Yeah, A, affluent, white, female, urban, liberal. Chauvinistic. I'm more of a fan of trad wives. Trad. But who knows? Maybe Jacinda Ardern is so empathetic that she's done wonders for the world. I'll have to ask my Kiwi friends. Where'd you guys go? Oh, there we are. Let's see. Dustin women that tracked down the Indians that took her kids with a feisty woman, though. Okay. I did not hear about this. And that's what I was saying about if we're in a tribe, we have 150 people, we're being attacked. It's a Hollywood story if my daughter comes out as a sniper with the bow. She's like, you're not going to take any of my tribe. You will die, enemies. And she's out there fighting with. Yeah, that's a great story. I'd love it. But I also don't want my daughter getting shot in the face with a fucking arrow. So I would rather take the arrow. But I love the stories. I'm trying to copy that. I have too many tabs open. Am I on the right story here? Hannah Duston, Puritan woman from Massachusetts who, after being captured by Abenaki people during a 1697 raid on Haverhill, escaped by killing and scalping 10 of her captors while they slept. She is considered the first woman in American history to be honored with a statue. That's pretty gangster. But desperate times call for desperate measures and generalizations stay the same. Ah, there you go. Boom. The oldest statue of a woman in the United States. Yeah. Good for her. 1697. That's when my crew is showing up. I think it was actually 17. So she lived quite a while, huh? What's that? 43, 70, 80, 49, 89, 79 years old. 79 years old. Scalping 10 of her captors. That's kind of what the Denver Nuggets did to the Portland Trailblazers last night. They scalped those motherfuckers. Nothing more exciting than a 54-point win in the NBA, in my opinion. Assuming it's your team that does the winning. Do you think Portland's going to be pissed? Well, too bad. You don't get to play them anymore. Actually, I think we do. I think we play those fools 4 times, not 2. Hannah Duston. Her gruesome story. Dude, why wouldn't it just jump onto the screen? Oh, tell me this is a woke perspective. Please tell me. Please tell me. The gruesome story of Hannah Duston, whose slaying of Indians made her an American, quote, hero. A century after killing and scalping 10 Native Americans, she was memorialized in what might well be the first public statue of a female in America. On a small island north of Concord. Dude, what's up with these pop-ups? Like, how can I fucking stop that shit? Ugh. I can't stand that. Dude, how do I not have an ad blocker? All right. 25-foot tall granite statue of Hannah Duston, English colonist. Okay. meaning she was born in England and made the trek across the pond, taken captive by Native Americans during King William's War. Are you fucking kidding me? This gotta be a literal rag. Dude, it's literally crushing my computer. Oh my God. Go fuck yourself. I gotta close that. Yeah. I can't even. Dude, that website, Smithsonian, what? It freaking destroyed my computer. My computer started screaming. Oh, that's where the button is. Boom. We have a new commenter. It's like, I think Penny Pebble Ripplers and Guy Savelli. But now we have Kurt. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to have to deconstruct this. Is Remy Sletmer an entire name? That's a hell of a name. Kurt Remy Sletmer. Sletmer. Yeah, I probably fucked something up. No worries. We're back. I actually don't know what else I was going to talk. Oh, no, I was going to read Civil Disunion. I literally haven't even read this one. This is a separate one. But I think it applies. Actually, I did read the first part, and I realized it does apply. I should read this. And you want to see it? Let's see. It's a bunch of chicken scratch, so it may not make sense. But we'll end on this. It has become increasing. It's titled Civil Disunion. I guarantee I didn't write this any later than 2014. It was probably in the 13 range. Because from 2013, I was spending my time at work learning how to grow weed. And not writing things. Here we go. It has become increasingly apparent how divided our society is. The solidification of this division is evident regarding issues of economics, healthcare, foreign policy, etc. To be a Republican means now to be an anti-Democrat. This is before Trump, by the way. To be a Democrat means now to be an anti-Republican. It is for the most part clear what both sides are against, much less clear what either side is for. But what is most clear is that our nation is divided. Decent opening paragraph, huh? In a nation so clearly divided, the irony seems to be found in the very unclear communication and rhetoric that caused this division. Definitely need to shine this up a little. The two biggest victims of this polarizing war of rhetoric are clarity and truth. Very rare is the discussion between opposing views conducted with respect, genuine presence, and general civility. While the case is obvious for a more civil discourse, I would like to look instead at the fundamental issues of identity and purpose and see how clarity in these areas will, in all hope, minimize the opposition festering in our country. Who are we? In the general sense, we are the most diverse country in the world. Within this diversity, I would like to examine a more individual identity and would like to propose that the identity of the individual falls into one of three categories of society. By identifying oneself with a category, a new vision of purpose can then, like, this is uncharted territory. I literally haven't read this probably since I wrote it, which is 13 years. What was the last word? By identifying oneself with category, a new vision of purpose can then be formed. It is from this point of purpose within identity that civil discourse may emerge. Allow me to preface the following by saying that the ideas presented are not my own. They are merely a collection of ideas I've gathered from those who have gone before me. Look at you. At some level, this is the case for everyone's ideology. And my emphasis here is on the clarity of purpose and identity in forming one's ideology. I think I'm just throwing out words that I learned. It seems the marketplace of ideas has become the melting pot of confusion, inconsistency, and even deception. And my hope for the future is that we can unite for the cause of clarity, so that our discourse becomes more civil and respectful, so that we proceed forward toward a more perfect union, in quotes. As mentioned above, one's role in society fits into one of three categories. Let me emphasize here that this categorization designates one's identity in relation to society. One's personal identity, however, may be dictated by many other factors, is determined otherwise, and would need to be addressed in a separate article. My proposal here is for one's identity in regards to society and the resulting purpose that can be determined. Simply put, one's identity in society is determined by one's work. Whatever. The first and largest of these categories is commonly called the private sector. This group can only be defined as is made up of all those who work outside of the other two categories. Okay. Its very name hints at an individualistic purpose. The parameters of the other two groups will show how this first group has the most underdeveloped purpose. The second largest group is called the public sector. And for some reason, I scratched out the next two sentences. The second largest group is conversely called the public sector. Look at that. Taxes, the public sector the public sector is commonly known to be made up of those who serve the public: lawmakers, police, military, state and local officials, and many others. The defining characteristic of this group is its role as servants in society. The third and smallest group I will call the moral sector. The moral sector, known in earlier times as the church, is becoming increasingly diverse in our society, postmodern society. I'll define this group as those whose work is undergirded? Maybe. Undergirded by ethics, the process of determining right and wrong, and whose product is morality, the actual content of what is determined to be right and wrong. A person's placing in either of these groups and subsequent role within the group is determined by his or her connection to their corporate entity. For instance, I work in a steel mill. The purpose of the corporation I am connected to is to manufacture products made of steel. Therefore, my purpose is to make steel products. Manufacture steel products. Different levels of purpose can be integrated or derived from the person's connection to their specific corporate entity and to the corporation. How the fuck was I writing this? I was bored. and the corporation's connection to society. We can answer this question by examining 3 levels of identity that exist in our country. The first level is, okay, the nation as a whole. So, what we realized there is that I shouldn't have read any of that shit, because that's dog shit. I don't know where I was going, but I ended up stopping. Thank God. We do, however, appreciate the first essay of the day. I do anyway. And then the reading of my second one. I like that. I'm glad it's out in the ether now, because mark it down, publish it. We are good to go. We got... yeah, there's a time and place to read that, and it ain't now. And Piff is back with 2 salutes. Let's see what I can do. 1, 2. I wonder if it'll post all 3 accounts. Oh, it's not showing the Facebook comments, is it? How dare you? Welcome to the show, Piff. As this time together grows and we get more people, we got to come up with some kind of way of, you jump on, you throw down your first comment, and it's like, I'm starting live. Because I don't know if you're... Oh, we don't need a wrench today. There's nobody doing anything crazy. We got to wait till we get more people and it gets crazy. But I do know what the wrench is now. No. What I'm saying is, if you come in and you tell me, like, here's an example. Just a little sample. Is that Fresh Prince? I think it is. I watched the DMVR Nuggets show, post-game show, after the Nuggets game. And then I do mine after their show. But sometimes I start the game late because I don't like commercials. So I fast forward and then I start their show late. So sometimes they're going to be 30 minutes in already talking about something. Now, live chat usually stays live because it doesn't make sense to talk in the live chat, which we're doing, about things in the beginning if you started in the beginning when everybody's 30 minutes in, if you know what I mean. For me, I jump in always starting at the beginning, and I put it on 1.5 speed until I catch up, if I catch up at all. But if I'm going to leave a super chat, which I do periodically, I'll usually go to live and back up like 2 minutes and figure out what they're talking about so I know it would fit. Although it doesn't really matter because they read all the super chats at the end and get their... That's the one thing about that show that's good, is that no matter how many super chats they're given or how much money you paid for them, they read them all. So I get a little... oh, shit. I just shorted my brain out. Drop the link. I'll show you the re-veg. What link is that? I think I know what you're saying, but also this is not the Grow Show, so we'll have to talk about re-vegging in 2 more days, because tomorrow at different time tomorrow, we're coming back early, 1:30 p.m. The Nuggets are playing against the Golden State Warriors in San Francisco or wherever they are, and they were without Steph the last I remember, and didn't Jimmy Buckets, didn't he get hurt too? Oh, yeah. So I assume that's what you meant, but I use EV Mux. You're saying that there's a link I can give you to share some media to which I am unfamiliar. And everywhere I look on this page, I don't see anything. But yeah, the service I use is EVMux, EVMUX. Dynamic scenes, pro scenes. All I can do is share my screen or share media. But like I said, this might not be the time and place because we've been going hard on politics and uncertainty. Yeah. My theory on watching or checking out in person pictures of everybody else's stuff is Instagram. I guess if I was doing consulting through this platform, it would be advantageous to see what everybody else is doing. But no, I think we're heading towards the end of this show. Yes, they are. Sometimes they are deadly. Silent, but deadly. Did we get anywhere tonight? I feel like we did. I'm happy about the uncertainty essay number 3, and then also my original one. And I hope our goal for next one, the next one is usually on a Friday, so that seems like it might be the end of the month, though. Let us check our calendar going forward. God, I'm burning up. I don't know why. Okay, yeah. So the 28th is Saturday. We're going to do On Faith and Doubt on Saturday. Oh, no, we can't. So the Nugs are playing Wednesday and Friday. So Thursday, I would have to do Eyes to See. So we'll do another continuation of this show on Thursday. And then Saturday, I'm going to do On Faith and Doubt, which goes in a little deeper. Wednesday, Friday will be Little Nugget shows. And then Monday, Tuesday will be Grow shows. So if you want to come back at 11 p.m. on Monday and talk about growing cannabis in legal fashion in the state of Colorado or anywhere you're posted up, we will do that Monday, February 23rd at 11 p.m. Tuesday, February 24th at 11 p.m. Tomorrow, 1:30 plus 4 is 5:30 p.m. I will be here at the Little Nugget Show. Wednesday and Friday, I don't know what time those games are. I'm actually going to a Nuggets game in 2 weeks. How am I going to do a show if I go to the Nuggets game? I got to figure out how to do it on my phone. And then they play a back-to-back? Their chances are all looking bad that they win. Hopefully they do. Because I'm 100% on every Nuggets game I've gone to, they won. Knock on wood. All right, folks, we're done. What did I miss? So you are a MAGA. MAGA as fuck. I've definitely been MAGA as fuck. But I've also not been. Do I agree with their policies? Hopefully you started from the beginning because that kind of covers a lot of things. Tell me what policies and then I'll tell you. I don't agree in general with anybody. But We talked about MAGA being Make America Great Again, and I talked about 15 generations of my blood born or buried on this soil. And now one of my good friends is first generation, and the both of us can come together and say, what made America? Stolen land? Fuck out of here. Everyone stole each other's land. Everyone killed each other before the Puritans came and the Protestants. And then they said, hey, let's live in harmony and peace and develop this land. And the Indians wanted to kill us too. But then everyone wanted to kill the Indians. And that's what happens. That's what's happened through all of human history. America's the first place that put a fucking stop to it. And then they said, we're going to live in peace. We're going to build a more perfect union, more prosperous. How did they do that? They built it off of the best goddamn governmental document ever created by man. The United States Constitution in conjunction with the Declaration of Independence. So as far as Make America Great Again, abso-fucking-lutely. I am watching this country decline into debauchery. I'm watching this country decline into depravity. I'm watching this country decline into perversions. And I'm done with it. You wouldn't do it next to me? You wouldn't do it next door? I don't want it in my town. I don't want it in my county. I don't want it in my city. How do you want to live? That's the question you got to start with. How do you want to live? Because I look around the world and I see the shitholes that a lot of these people are coming from are shitholes for a reason. What's the reason? What's the reason? Why are you going to come here and make our home a shithole? That's anti-immigrant? Cool. Sign me up. I'm not anti-immigrant. I'm anti-bad immigrant. Immigrants have to assimilate. If they don't assimilate, you got Europe. Europe is falling. Literally. Falling. Unless they put a stop to it, they're done. So I don't know who they are in terms of MAGA. The idea that I'm talking about is Make America Great, meaning put a stop to the debauchery. Put a stop to the perversions. Put a stop to the corruptions. Let's all work and make our own shit so we can have a good living, build houses, grow good food, harvest good animals. You know, there's a right way to live, and we've forsaken it too many times for profit. And now we're forsaking it for the absolute destruction. Mass immigration destroys every country it's ever been implemented into in the history of the world. And if you don't know what mass immigration is, it's 30 million people coming into the country in a 4-year span that have no bearing on this society, that have no bearing on this culture. That's why immigration has always been limited, because you have to assimilate or you'll lose your culture. And you might say, well, fuck your culture. Our culture is better. Well, cool. If your culture is better, then why is your country shit? Why is there trash everywhere? Why don't you have a running sewer system? Or if it is great, why the fuck do you want to come here? My opinion. So you get me fired up about immigration. I don't know what else is MAGA. No foreign wars. That was a big one. Granted, we're probably going to go to war with Iran now because the neocons and the warmongers took over. But yeah, the fact that Trump was the first president of my lifetime to not start a new war, that was great. What else was it? Immigration, no new wars, and bringing manufacturing back to the U.S. Pretty simple to me. 100% agree with that. The one thing I don't agree with is castrating kids and giving them hormones before they're fucking 18. Good night, everybody.